Ask questions, and honestly, why the FAQ would not anyone join us?
I don't know.
I don't know either. So we're not going to explore that today, but what we are going to do is explore your financial aid and your college admissions and college planning questions in general. And I'm Andy Lockwood. This here is my little lady, Pearl Lockwood. Happy anniversary to Pearl.
Happy anniversary to you, dear.
And did you get my gift?
No.
200 FAFSAs to file.
Really?
I know.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I know, that's funny.
Thank you.
I think it's funny.
You really listened.
I listened for once. So, if you're joining us, please say hi in the comments section. Please like and comment and share. I have a list of questions, an incomplete list of questions, just from the last week up through Wednesday when I stopped because we got too busy with stuff. And even though I'm risking a very substantial paper cut injury, I thought I would go with the paper and fire away some of these facts. Some are for you, some are for me, some are for both of us to share. So let me just see if who is with us today. I'm getting down to my Facebook page. And there's a little bit of a delay.
Okay.
So we'll see. But if you have questions you want us to answer on the air today, comment right here. And if we don't get to them today because of the delay or whatever, then we'll respond to them after the fact. F-A-C-T. All right. So let's start with, we got a question from an undisclosed person. Mm-hmm. The question is, do you need to obtain an ID for the CSS profile similar to the FSA ID for the FAFSA, or do you use your FSA ID to electronically sign the CSS profile?
Okay. No. The FAFSA is one form and the CSS is a separate form, and they are put out by two different departments. The FAFSA does require you to use and first obtain and then use an FSA ID username and password. The student will need one as well as one of the two parents, and that is so that they can electronically sign and submit the the FAFSA.
Ooh.
I know. The FAFSA as well as use the IRS DRT within the FAFSA, which allows which you would use the parent's FSA ID username and password for within the FAFSA to port your 2015 tax return information from the IRS directly into the FAFSA. That's the FAFSA. For the CSS profile, in order to access the CSS profile, you need your child's College Board username and password, which is what that student obtained when he or she first registered for the SAT.
Or PSAT.
He or she registered for the SAT or PSAT. That username and password that was set up through the College Board site is what you need in order to access the CSS profile. And the way you pay for and submit the CSS profile is by entering your credit card information or your check information or your fee waiver if applicable.
I don't recall asking you that.
Anyway, so for the CSS profile, you need your College Board username and ID. For the FAFSA, you need the FSA ID username and password.
Who needs the FSA ID?
The student as well as one parent.
So there are two FSA IDs.
Correct.
Just going to let that sit.
It's exciting.
Okay. So what about the PIN?
Okay, the PIN, which used to be associated with the FAFSA system, has been replaced as of about 2-3 years ago already by the FSA ID system. So those who were enrolled in school while the PIN system was in effect, those people needed to eventually replace their PIN with an FSA ID. At this point, everyone should only have an FSA ID username and password to do, the PIN is obsolete.
All right. If you're just joining us, it is the Friday FAQ. You can FAQ us your college planning facts, or maybe not so F questions, not so frequently asked questions. We're trying to go through a bunch of questions in about another 20 minutes or so that we received over the week. And if some of the stuff sounds like gobbledygook to you, please comment and we'll try to answer those on the show today. If we can't get to it today, then we'll respond to your comment later. And please like, comment, share, and otherwise propagate our information here. Okay. All right. Question number 2. That's French for 2. If you don't file your taxes electronically, parens, you mail them in, will you be able to use the IRS's data retrieval? And can you file your FAFSA and CSS profile electronically? 2 questions.
Okay. The answer is...
And by the way, thank you for my shake.
You're welcome.
Okay. We're going out to dinner tonight, so I'm trying not to be a pig at breakfast and lunch, only dinner.
Okay.
21st anniversary.
Yes. Happy us. Okay, so the answer is yes, you can still electronically submit your FAFSA and your CSS profile, even though you may paper file your tax return. In terms of accessing it and uploading it into your FAFSA, you'll just have a delay. For those who filed their tax return electronically, the wait time is usually about 2 weeks after you file. The IRS DRT should be available. That's a link within the FAFSA that enables one, with the use of the parent's FSA ID username and password, to port your actually submitted tax return information to the IRS from the IRS site directly into your FAFSA. And that is generally what schools want to see in the end, or to have happened at all. So for people who paper file, instead of it being about 2 weeks, you're going to have, it could be, I've seen it as long as 12 weeks after the filing of that return before it would be available to port it through the IRS DRT link. What I would recommend, I do not recommend you waiting to file your FAFSA. I recommend you filing it, even if it's already been completed, and if the IRS DRT is not available, submit it this way, and just know that at some point, put something on your calendar that's 3 months ahead. At that point, you should try again and try to port it electronically. The school itself will ask for that to happen anyway, so you will get reminder emails from the Department of Ed, because it will know instinctively that has not been done yet. But
there's a little bit of ice chunk in here.
Sorry. To sum up, if you paper file your tax return, yes, you can still electronically port it into the FAFSA. However, it's going to be a longer time from the time you file that return before the IRS DRT for that return would be available.
Is that longer period of time longer than your explanation? Okay. That was mean, right?
I err on the side of completion.
This is kind of like college planning between 2 ferns. I don't know what else. Dick Cavett, perhaps. May I? Okay. All right. Tony Ann asked, my husband retired this past June, so our tax info is very different than our current situation. What would I there?
What would you do?
Yeah.
Okay. So your 2015 tax return info probably
hold on
shows...
a second. So we're assuming that she's got someone graduate 2017 and she's going to have to file the FAFSA now.
And it's going to represent her 2015 income, which, what I'm assuming she's saying, doesn't accurately reflect their current financial picture as well as what their expected, near future expected income will be.
So I actually got the same question last night from someone else who was not Tony Ann. Mm-hmm. And just to kind of reframe that question, it was along the lines of, I know I have to put down my 2015 income,
right,
but 2016 is much different. I'm self-employed and it's much lower. It's basically the same question.
Right.
What's up with that? And I guess we should also talk about FAFSA,
yes,
but also CSS
yes,
profile
exactly.
schools. And I actually am not sure, well, maybe you know, I'm not sure if we know exactly what CSS profile schools are going to be doing this year. Do you?
Well, like, you mean with the information, or what they're going to be requiring and requesting and all that good stuff?
whether 2016
comes into play at
comes
some
into
point?
play on the CSS profile will be considered, because I know what the answer is about 2015.
Indeed it will. Okay.
2015
Yes.
FAFSA
Is the base year.
Okay, so you answer that,
And
then
then
I'll
you-
chime in with something dumb,
Okay. So
maybe about college stuff.
basically, as between the two forms, and I always have to give my little preview spiel because I really take for granted the fact that this is not made very clear out there in the world. But there are about 4,000 schools out there. If you are seeking aid, need, or merit-based consideration, you submit the FAFSA to every school on your kid's list. If you are, and then the second form that many schools could also require, about 300 or so of the 4,000 schools out there, may require an additional, not a choice, an additional second financial aid form called the CSS profile. Okay. So the FAFSA requires your 2015 your tax return information and your...
Did you get a manicure yet?
No, I'm too busy doing FAFSAs. And then the CSS
And
profile
biting.
base year is also 2015, but it also asks for your expected 2016 information and your expected 2017 information. Here's the deal. If you're applying to a school that only requires the FAFSA, that's, I'm guessing, where you're heading. There is no place to qualify your 2015 tax return information. It just is what it is. You're going to submit the 2015 information, and at some future point, if that school is a school you're going to end up wanting to go to, you're going to, at some point, need to communicate with them, whether it be through an appeal or negotiation.
Time out. I have it on authority from reading some of the really geeky, dorky communications from the Department of Education that FAFSA schools may not consider 2016 as a special circumstance. What do you think about that?
I think that's rough. And
Well,
does not
Do you
jive
believe
with
that
reality.
to be okay? Do you believe that to be the case, or do you not know yet, or
Well, I really do not know yet, and I wouldn't say that I know that because I haven't lived through the year yet.
right? I read
so
that.
I
That was
haven't
one. You know those
seen-
notices that the undersecretary
Right.
Ted whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so that actually was not verbatim, but in substance, that is what they're saying. Is that if you have that situation and you're applying only, to a school that only requires the federal form, the FAFSA, free application for federal student aid, and your 2016 income is far different or worse than 2015, they're not going to consider. They're not
Right.
supposed to consider it.
And there is no place on that form for, number one, anywhere to indicate what your 2016 income is, and there is no place on the FAFSA to provide any kind of explanation about the numbers that you have put in.
Okay, now in contrast, the 260, 270, or now it's 300, I guess, according to you, colleges that take, because you always exaggerate. I'll be there in 10 minutes. That's not really exaggerating, but anyway, enough about us.
Is this really the way you should be speaking to me on our Holy of Holy Days?
Yes. Didn't we bicker like on our first date? I can't remember that.
Maybe.
I don't.
When you like split the bill for Chinese food?
When you were insisting.
Whatever.
Okay. I love Chinese. We're going for Italian tonight. Anyway, so on the CSS profile, you, number one, they ask about, for this year, 2015, they're also going to ask about 2016. We believe they're going to ask for 2016 tax returns once filed, do
Right. We believe that, but we do not know that factually yet.
we? We could probably look that up somewhere.
Right.
What are you doing with your all day? So that means we're hoping that CSS profile schools will consider as a special circumstance if you have that fluctuating income from a high in 2015 to something lower in 2016. We'll see, but that's what we expect.
Plus, the CSS profile, by contrast to the FAFSA, also has an explanation section that enables you to provide any information that is not readily
Special
apparent
circumstances.
from your numbers alone.
Well, what I'm saying is I believe that a drop in income is still going to be considered a special circumstance for CSS profile schools.
Yes.
But it's really not under the federal guidelines for FAFSA only colleges.
Right,
that
except
in your
if
pipe and
you
smoke
are
it.
unemployed and you've lost your job, then there is a place to indicate when you have been unemployed since. So you would indicate...
The old dislocated worker.
Correct. You would say, yes, I am dislocated.
Okay.
So anyhow, and keep in mind as well that if you are applying to the school that requires both forms, both the CSS and the FAFSA, then you don't have to be as hung up about the confines of the FAFSA, because the financial aid committee will be reading those two forms at that school in conjunction with one another for a fuller picture.
Okay. All right. Next question. Question deux. No, I
You
don't
did
know.
duh.
I know. This is like catch.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is from Melissa Cooperage-Schmidt. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thanks for a wonderful presentation. You're welcome. And answering my two questions below. A little presumptuous, but I'll answer. Okay. No, wait, you answered this one. Do you need to obtain an ID for the CSS profile similar? Okay, those are the ones that she asked before. So someone cut and pasted this in my document twice. That would be me.
But you're welcome.
But that would be me. Okay. All right. This is from Tim Schulten. Andy, you and I have spoken before on the phone, and I've been on your webinars. Quick question for you or Pearl that I think I know the answer to. When filling out the net worth of investment section of the FAFSA, do you put the total balance of all your 529 plans in that field? I have 3 kids, and only one is a senior this year, so the other kids' 529 plans, in theory, will not be touched. Do you mind stopping the bobbing? It's very distracting, especially with all that gorgeous hair of yours. The 529 plans, in theory, will not be touched until they go to school years from now. Thanks. Appreciate all that you guys do to keep the public informed. All the best, Tim. Thank you, Tim. Pearl.
Sorry, Tim. You have to add all of your children's 529 accounts together, and that number is what gets reported under the asset section under 529s. So while you may have yourself earmarked the accounts for your 3 different children, the schools do not treat it that way, and you are to add them together, and that's considered a parent asset on the FAFSA, and it is all 3 kids combined. Sorry.
But that seems unfair.
You know, there are lots of things in life that are unfair.
You're so philosophical. So much tough love. What about a grandparent?
It's all about setting
What about
it-
a grandparent's 529?
Well,
Sometimes we get those questions.
yes, often. Or other relatives.
Not because we have grandparents that never got.
No.
What about other people's families that have grandparents that establish 529s?
Okay, well...
Is that on the FAFSA?
It is nowhere on the FAFSA, and you...
Why?
Because it is considered a parent asset.
It's not.
No. A 529 plan, the only one that would be on the FAFSA, is one that is owned and held by the parent.
Let me rephrase that. So the FAFSA asks about parent assets and child assets.
Right.
The 529 held by a grandparent is considered what?
The grandparent's
Neither.
asset. Right. Nothing to do with the FAFSA form.
Neither.
There is one place... There is one place on
Sorry.
the CSS profile.
Stop. So it's not on the FAFSA anywhere.
It's not on the FAFSA.
Is there, now, counselor, is there some way, shape, or form that having a grandparent 529 catches up to you?
Yes. When the grandparent actually uses that 529 money and pays for some of the students' school expenses, at that point, that asset does come into play and becomes a student asset, unfortunately.
Students, income.
I'm sorry, student income. The point is, it goes under the student.
Can't carry you the whole show.
And is much more heavily penalized than if the parent owned it or if the grandparent had it and never spent it.
So any student income is, I say, penalized at 50% of that amount. So a contribution sent by the grandparent to the school, let's say it's $20,000, could reduce that student's eligibility the following year by $10,000, 50% of that $20,000. So what some families try to do, we advise them this, if they can do it, is to avoid using that grandparent 529 until after you filed your final FAFSA, which is in your junior year.
Right.
Okay. If you have any questions at all, dump them in the comments section here. Whether you're watching this live or you're watching this after, we'll do our best to answer them. Please like this video and our page. If you like our page, then you'll get notified every time we go on the air, which is Tuesdays at 12 Eastern and Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. So please like, comment, share. Send Pearl a few of those hearts. I don't really have feelings, so don't send those to me. I don't know if you can really distinguish anyway on Facebook, but it is our anniversary, so let's just assume they're going to Pearl. And Spaz? Spaz is on? All right, cool. So a celebrity, Facebook celebrity guest appearance by Joanna Spaz Mandel. What was I going to say? If you have any questions about, maybe there's ways to improve your eligibility, if you want help filling out the FAFSA, the profile, all that type of stuff, just click on the Call Now button that's on this page, and you'll speak to Kristen in the office, and she can set up a time for us to chat. Just mention that you saw this on Facebook. Okay, code word SPAZ. That'll get you a free consult. I'm just kidding. All right, let's go on here.
I think that's worth a free consult.
What?
If somebody actually remembers to use
If anyone says the word spaz, I'm going to make fun of Joanna, who I've known since 7th grade, and I'm seeing her at our high school reunion in a few weeks, actually. Yeah. And 7th grade girlfriend didn't speak to each other in 8th grade. Okay. So, just because I know you're laughing and enjoying this, okay. All right. Let's talk about a few more questions here.
You do have chocolate on your face right there. Just saying.
Oh, I could use a napkin. Okay. What about non-custodial parent profile, which I'll explain because we don't have so much time, and whether the non-custodial parent can access the custodial parent's information. So let me back up. So that was a question we got from Christine, one of our clients. And it had something, I'm just, to protect her confidentiality, I'm just going to paraphrase here.
Christine Goldman.
Nice. Not her real name. Right. I think her real name is Stein, actually.
Christine Stein.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, it's multi-religious.
Chrissy Stein.
Yeah. Christian Stein. So, in the financial aid process, most schools want only the custodial parent's information, meaning the parent that the kids live with. That's on the FAFSA. That's what the FAFSA says very specifically. Only use the information in the case of a divorce of the parent that the kid resides with at least a majority of time. Okay. The CSS profile, the other form that 260, 270 or so colleges take, they have a lot more disclosures involved, including some stuff about who the non-custodial parent, and probably about a third of those non-custodial parent profile schools, so maybe 90 or so colleges, also require a separate disclosure called a non-custodial parent profile. So Christine Stein Goldstein was asking Pearl, my ex is contacting the school that my child goes to. We'll call it Yeshiva, and or Brigham Young. Which one do you want to go with? Well, Yeshiva might be a non. It doesn't matter. So, and contacting the school and trying to fish for some information about her.
About the parent, the custodial parent.
Yeah. So just to back up, how does the process work when you have two ex-spouses filing things? Do they all see it? Do they, or are there some protections set up? And then how do you work with parents who are divorced, because we get that question all the time?
Okay, so the presumption is, and as you correctly pointed out, on the FAFSA, only the custodial parent's financial information goes on that, and on the CSS profile, only the custodial parent's financial information goes on that form too, even though it'll say on your form parent 1 and parent 2. You just ignore where it says parent 2, and you do not include any information about the non-custodial parent. There is only one small section in the CSS profile that asks a few minor questions about the non-custodial parent, and it is only if once you register your CSS profile, is it generated that which schools of your CSS profile schools also require this additional financial aid form called the non-custodial profile, which is based only on the non-custodial parents' information, financial.
So you may be asking yourself, am I going to have to fill one of these things out?
Maybe.
And the answer, spoiler, the answer is, in raw statistical, I guess, terms, it's a relatively small percentage of schools that require that. In our practice, when we have a lot of parents who are upper middle class and their kids are applying to private colleges,
right.
Most of our clients have kids applying to private
there
colleges.
will be a handful.
It's
right.
a disproportionate amount, even though the overall percentage, 90 out of 4,000 colleges seems pretty small. In our practice, we see the non-custodial parent profile being required by many colleges.
Because it is the hot, named, known schools often that are requiring, right, and are requiring this deeper dive into your finances as a full picture.
So how's it
with
separated?
that, so there is essentially, is it not PC to say something like Chinese wall? Not PC these days? I don't even know, but hopefully
Asian
you understand.
American wall.
Okay. So within the FAFSA
Shoshi
and
screen?
CSS profile systems themselves, what happens is when you register the CSS profile, which is the first part of beginning your CSS profile, once you click through the registration page, there will be a page that pops up by virtue of you declaring that there was just one custodial parent. A non-custodial, it'll say your non-custodial parent will need to fill out for these schools, and it will list the schools actually that require it of your list, and actually gives temporary login information that is to go to the non-custodial parent. The minute that parent logs in with that initial temporary password, they are prompted to change their password so that information, so that the custodial parent cannot then go back into and see what the non-custodial parent is inputting in his or her form.
So that's the Chinaman's wall you were talking about?
That is the thing that keeps everything separate, so that two
nice
divorce
non-reaction.
or separated
impressive.
parties. Yeah, Donald Trump needs to learn how to do that.
I thought that was like my best line. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Keeps things separate. So too, and we were happy to learn that when our client found out that her ex-spouse was trying to access her information, he
Mr.
was
Goldmanstein.
unable to. Because the presumption with all the schools is when there is the separation that there is no permission granted for the other party to have any access to that financial information. In our practice, we work the same way. None of the information is shared. It is kept absolutely confidential from everybody, from each other, certainly.
Good. Okay. I have a question that I'm probably going to ask and answer. So, using the same voice. And that question came from a client of ours, Chris, who was contemplating applying early decision to NYU. And Chris goes to high school in a very, very competitive district here on Long Island. It's always listed as one of the top ones in the country. And the summary of his conversation and his dad is a family meeting with the guidance counselor was that they were concerned that, rightfully so, that if they applied early decision and got into NYU Stern, which is very hard to get into, but did not like the financial aid award that they got, then they would be, very nervous and apprehensive, and they wanted to know, what their options were for getting out, because they'd heard from us that you can actually get out of an early decision, quote unquote binding commitment if you don't like the financial aid award. And the guidance counselor said pretty much that you shouldn't apply there if you're concerned about being able to pay, which I think is terrible advice, because really, when you strip it away, what that advice does is protect the guidance counselor's agenda, which is to make sure that they don't have that taint of one kid 1 year applying and getting out of an early decision commitment, even though that's perfectly above board and part of the early decision agreement, for the following year's classes. because the theory is that, well, if NYU gets an applicant next year for someone graduating in 2018, they're going to be less likely to admit them because Chris and his family the year before, exercised their right to get out. And that really makes me angry because most parents just kind of swallow that message. It's either explicit or implicit that you have to go there if you apply early decision. And in fact, that's not the case. And what bothers me the most is that, if you're a person applying to college or you're a parent of a kid applying to college, your duty and your fiduciary duty, your obligations to your family, not to your high school's guidance department. So if you decide in your best interest that you should not be overpaying ridiculous amounts of money for a college, and it's perfectly within your rights to get out of your commitment as previously agreed upon by you, your child somehow, and the guidance counselor, all three of which are parties to the early decision agreement.
Right.
I don't see any issue with that at all. But I guess the
under 18-year-old, not one without the capacity to contract.
Thank you, counselor.
Nonetheless.
Yes. So, but in this case, Chris has a younger family member who's also going through the high school, so they were like a little nervous about pissing off the guidance department. But putting that aside, that really bothers me, and everyone should understand that you can get out of an early decision agreement if you don't like the financial aid offer. And another question we get sometimes is, well, who decides whether the financial aid offer is adequate or not? Is there some sort of standard? There isn't. It's you, the applicant, reviewing the financial reviewing the financial aid offer, and you alone. There isn't some tribunal or something that will decide that for you. Okay, so I just had to say that.
That being said, be ethical, folks. Karma's a,
What? What's karma, Pearl?
Karma's a botch.
Right. So I think we've gone on long enough today. What do you think?
Yes.
I mean, we have a few more questions. We'll just save those in the tank for next week. I know we're going to get a ton more questions. Again, if you have any questions about college admissions, college financial aid, the FAFSA, the profile, any of that stuff, you can post them on this page. If you're interested in talking to us, just click on the Call Now button. You'll speak to Chris in the office. And I think we should sign off now.
Sounds good.
All right, so I'm going to click the little button here. Thanks a lot for watching. Andy Lockwood, Pearl Lockwood, College Talk, FAQ, Us Friday. FAQ, your college questions answered. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll be back on for College Talk Tuesday, next Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this Facebook page.
Cool.
Bye-bye.